Alright, so here we have everything we need to build a 1965 Studebaker prototype truck. Lights and stuff, floorboard, door panels, inner and outer bodies, the bed, and once you got it all cleaned up and ready to assemble, the following is what you're going to need to do. So for some of these parts, you're going to need a slower curing CA glue. This is the Gorilla 10 seconds. It's a bit thicker than, let's say, this one, which is pretty much instantaneous and very liquidy. You're going to use the slower one when you need to position stuff or align stuff before it sets. So this is very important. This is what I'm going to be using for these panels here. Once you've got everything cleaned up and ready to assemble, we're going to get to it. But here I just want to show you that I used PLA to support, because this was printed with the top down. And most of the time PLA just comes right off. Sometimes you gotta just slightly scrape it like that. Alright, so now that everything is cleaned up, your edges are all taken care of, start by taking the left outside panel and the left inner panel. In order to align these, it's pretty easy. Put them on a flat surface and your alignment will be just going back and forth like this. Obviously you need to put some glue on first, but I wanted to show you beforehand. The seams here, basically you're going to sand out afterwards. So let's get this glue on. Alright, so again, flat down, squish together, move it around a bit, align it with the front, hold it, now you take the right side and you do the same thing. Again, always making sure you cleaned everything up first. Always make sure everything fits. So once that's done, you should be left with some intersections here that are cutouts to put the windows in. And this screws to the box like this. So ideally you will take your drill and drill bit, drill these out 2 millimeters and drill these out 1.5 millimeters. Alright, so 1.5. Now the other side of this is 2 millimeter, because it's designed so that you screw this to the back side and then you screw the cab to this piece. So they're kind of cascading, if you will. So these have to be drilled out as well. I'll switch over to the 2 millimeter. And we'll do the opposite side. So you can tell which side is which. Obviously the 1.5 holes are smaller, but on the 2mm size, the 2mm side holes have the groove in it to allow for the screw to get in there, whereas the other side does not. So anything you see with these grooves, here will be drilled out to 2mm. Now it doesn't matter which printer you have and how precise it is. It's always a good idea to drill out your holes to the proper size. So let's do these. Now, as I mentioned before, the sides with the grooves and the screw holes are 2mm. So now the reason you're going to remount the holes, it just makes it a lot easier to pass the screws through the holes and screw them into their proper areas. Front grill or front nose piece, which goes on this side, inside the grooves here. You'll note that there is a screw hole here. This also holds the front bumper in place, but for the time being, as for working on the body, we're going to use this hole just to hold it together temporarily. Be very careful with this piece because it's at this joint here, it's pretty fragile until it's all glued together. Now you may or may not need to put a nut behind it. Yeah, see, it's kind of loose. I'm going to put a nut behind it. Doesn't have to be super tight. So if you look at the back panel, you got a long flat section and a groove sticking out a bit farther. These holes go down, and the extension here goes towards the back of the cab. So in other words, like this. I guess we'll just hold it for a few minutes. Okay, and this is where I tend to go towards the thinner glue to do the front section here. So what I do, hold this on an angle. Let's make sure it doesn't torque too much. And you put a drop. And then the same thing on the other side. Now the beauty of this liquidy one is you put it into place, you give it a bit of an angle, and you can't see it, but the glue pretty much flows along the whole groove. As far as the front end here goes, and most of the interior, or actually all of the interior, we're assembling the body, and then the body is worked on, sanded, painted, and then these accessories are installed afterwards. This also gives you an opportunity to pre-paint all the accessories. So what we're going to do is apply some thin glue here. Couple of drops, tilt it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to let that dry. And focus our attention on here. So for this, we'll be using self-tapping 2mm screw. Now I'm using longer than normal screws, but 10mm should be enough. I just don't have any more 10mm screws to do this with, so I'm using 16. So basically you'll screw this all together all around. Now once they're seated and nice and tight, you don't need to tighten them any more than that. Okay, so now that the body is pretty much assembled, what you need to do is sand and paint it. You can install these covers here. They basically just glue into place. Alright, I wasn't going to paint it, but I think I'm going to give it a quick sand and a nice sand-like color paint job so that I can do the full assembly and really show you everything that needs to be done. Alright, so I painted the body, did a little bit of detail work, Now, before we continue assembling, we need to cut the glass. You can get some Lexan sheets like this here. This is 0.5 millimeters. Or what's also possible is using stuff like this. This was part of a cake cover from the grocery store. Usually they have some nice clear pieces on top. They're not as nice as a proper Lexan sheet, but they could do the job if you really needed that. So here, what I normally do is I'll generally take something flat, lean the piece flat on the edge, and then do the same thing on the side edge. You keep adjusting it. Ideally you'll have two flat pieces and you can do it all at once. Like so. And once it's in place, now the reason I do it this way is because you already have two nice flat edges. And what you want is a nice fine tip marker. And you go all around. And there we have a nice piece. Now the 0.5 stuff is pretty easy to cut. You can use scissors. When you're cutting out from an outline like this, you want to basically cut out the line. Not on the line, but just cutting the line off completely to get your actual size. So once you got your windows cut out, you have to glue them in. So you take off the plastic. I use the thicker glue for this. So typically what I just did is I applied the glue to the top, and I'm holding the body in a way so that the glue drips down. What I want is the least amount of glue on this surface possible. The reason behind this is because the glue tends to whiten this type of plastic. So you come in and you slide it in. Center it if you have to. Actually, before that's dry, you can, or you can wait and just put a bead of glue at the bottom here, or you can lift it up. Make sure you're holding it still against the wall and come in and put some glue on the inside here. Notice I'm putting it fairly far away from the edge. So that's in. So I'm going to let that dry before proceeding to anything else. And you basically want to do that for all the pieces of glass that you need to do. Shouldn't need a lot. Need to check the sizes of the windows we cut. Make sure they fit. Okay, so that needs to be trimmed a little bit maybe. Actually, no, that's pretty good. Let's try this guy. Alright, this one needs to be trimmed a little bit. There we go. Get the film off. Now these windows for the main door, you can, if you want to, you can cut it in half and make it look like the window is like half down, or just not put it in at all to make it look like the window is completely open. And these windows, you don't need to glue them in. They're going to be held in by the cover, or the insert, if you will. Let's put a little bit of glue up here. Now to get this into position before everything dries. I think that's it. Alright, so basically do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so for the radio, I'm basically using 5mm M2 socket cap screws. They're a little bit loose, but little dab of glue behind them should take care of that. Obviously, I didn't go and sand everything down to perfection. I wanted to get this video done in a decent amount of time. Now this body, if you will, can be used just built maybe as a model, or it can be used on an RC. Obviously maybe a drift RC, as you know, an on-road RC would probably see some heavy hits, and I'm pretty sure these bodies can't stand up to that kind of abuse. Okay, so once your dash is ready to go in, you're going to bring it in a little higher than the doors, then bring it down bit by bit. To make sure the holes align over here. Like so. Then you use a 8 to 10 millimeter M2 self-tapping screw. Once it seats, you stop. You don't want to snap any plastic and have it not hold into place. Same thing on this side. Before we get the floor in, we need to put the pedals in, pre-painted, and the assembled and painted steering column. Now you need to screw the steering column in from the bottom here with an M2 by 10 millimeter screw. Self-tapping. Machine screw works as well, but self-tapping is just a bit easier. It does a better job. Now you need to get the angle right. I'm sure an 8 millimeter screw would do the job as well. Alright, so once that's in, you need to adjust it. See, that's kind of crooked. You need to turn it. Loosen it a bit. Alright, that should do it. Now pull the ends apart a little bit. Get this up. Okay, so it does go in. It snaps into place pretty good, actually. So there's enough room here to get the LEDs in, both there and on the markers. So let's get the seat in there. That's pretty much it. So to keep the interior removable, change your driver. If ever you install a driver, you can drill a hole wherever you need to put the driver in. Yeah, put some hot glue. Basically hold it in place, pour some hot glue down here, and basically you'll be able to remove the interior if ever you needed to. Basically, I need to take out the interior because I forgot to put pedals in. Hold that for a bit and let it cool down, and we'll move on to the seat. 'Get the rear light buckets in. They're basically the same, right and left, so it's not a big deal. The flat side goes towards the outer wall. Uh, 25mm socket cap screw. Obviously you can sand and paint these however you see fit. Spacers. So for the back bumper, 14mm socket caps, M3 screws will do the trick. This is what we got right now. Aside from a bunch of static in the windows, it looks pretty good. Maybe painting the bumpers black might have been a good thing, but I mean, you guys can do whatever you want with it, obviously. Color-wise, I didn't go too crazy with the paint job, but I'm sure a little bit more time on it would have made it look really, really cool. Although it looks pretty freaking cool as it is. Let's see if we can get some light on the inside here.